Death by Wig? Man, I have now officially seen it all.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the 31 Nights of Halloween Horror! Rainbows from Hell. Episode number 12, yes, episode number 12. This train of fright keeps chugging all night long. And speaking of trains, coming off of last night's episode of the Korean Train of Doom movie Red Eye, I thought, hey, let's stay in the great land of South Korea and watch another movie that was on my list of things that I wanted to watch, and that movie is the 2000 film called Nightmare. Yes, Nightmare. So what is Nightmare about? Well, it's actually about a group of friends who during college created like this clique that's called A Few Good Men, or Few Good Men, or something. It just kind of reminded me like you totally ripped that off of that movie, but it's a group of a few guys and a couple gals, and so we have a situation where one of the members, she meets this young lady at a garden, and they become fast friends, and so she decides to introduce them to this group. And of course, that causes some trouble because one of the female members of the group likes one of the male members of the group, but that male member is immediately smitten with the new girl, whose name is, like, oh god, Yoon? I don't know, it's Korean names. I just trouble with Korean names. I mean, foreign names in general, but man, Korean names just seem really, really odd for me. But so this girl, whose name is I probably totally butchered that name, but she becomes really jealous and finds out that this girl is someone from her past. Yoon is some girl from their past, and it happens to be this girl who was considered the portent of vile death and destruction. Yes, wherever this girl went, tragedy and sorrow and misery followed, especially in this one, I guess you would say, the event that was the straw that broke the camel's back. There was this horrendous bus crash where everyone died except for her. And because of that, the local village shunned her, and she went off and changed her name and became beautiful and unrecognizable, and then just happened to get part of this group. Well, she finds that out soon. I finds this out and then outs her in front of the entire group, which causes chaos. And the one girl who brought her in, who was really having a good friendship with her, is hurt by this situation and tells her to get the hell out of her life. And then later you find out that this girl, whose real name is like Kyung or something. Like I said, I really bad. Anyways, she commits suicide, and oh my god, that made everyone kind of feel bad about the situation. So we fast forward. Soon I goes overseas to America to study, and everyone else kind of like leaves their separate ways and gets their own lives. Well, soon I comes back and comes back to South Korea, and is complaining that she's being haunted by the ghost of Kyung-hee and that she's marked for death. And all of a sudden, the members of this friendship group start to experience weird things. And then all of a sudden they start to die, one after another. And what ensues is what seems like a supernatural mystery horror movie, but is it really? Because all of a sudden you start getting these plots where each member of the group, well, not each member, certain members of the group, including Sue and I, and another gentleman, may have their own motives to see people suffer. I mean, we find out that Sue and I did not go to the United States to study abroad, but she went to get psychiatric help, probably riddled with guilt for the suicide of this girl because she was the one who pretty much caused it by outing her. And then she comes back, and perhaps the overwhelming guilt and the sort of betrayal of the group of friends to this young lady, which caused her suicide, she feels like she must get vengeance for that young woman by, first of all, punishing herself, but maybe killing all the other people in the group. While we find out that the one guy who's kind of the leader of the group, and he's a lawyer, is actually up to some shady stuff, has been cheating on his wife with another member of the group, and apparently another one of the group members is blackmailing him, so he's got all kinds of incentive to start offing people who might know about his infidelities and could ruin his life and career. So you start to get these parallels, and we're trying to figure out, is it actually a supernatural being? Is it the ghost coming back and getting vengeance? Or is it Sue and I losing her mind and, trying to make things right by doing a whole lot of wrong things? Or is it the lawyer who has the opportunity now to tie up some loose ends because he can use this trauma from Sue and I as an excuse to do all this stuff? And that's the kind of the interesting and neat thing about this movie, because it does kind of keep you guessing in those situations. However, it all kind of feels a lot like the plot from I Know What You Did Last Summer, in the sense that you have this group of friends that get involved in this tragedy and then kind of hide their involvement in the tragedy. I mean, no one's going to say that we had this gigantic fight right before she jumped off a roof, because that would make us look bad and stuff like that. And, the splintering of the friends, and then all of a sudden one friend comes back and is experiencing this sort of trauma, like getting notes saying, I know what you did last summer, and kind of brings the group back together so that they all can be picked off one by someone who wants vengeance or something. So yeah, it felt very reminiscent of that, and it's going to be reflected in this course. So I'm not going to talk about the plot anymore, because I think you get the basics, and I don't want to spoil anything, because if I do, that probably will ruin the movie for you. So, violence and gore, I'm giving it a 3 out of 5. There is a lot of blood in this movie, and there are some some neat things happen. Now, a lot of violence happens off screen. However, I think the decent amount of blood and some of the gore, we got some deoculation stuff going on, and an interesting scene of sewing someone's eyes shut toward the beginning was interesting. So enough to give it a 3 out of 5. Shock value, I'm giving it a 2 out of 5. The problem is the plot itself isn't very shocking, and there are some jump scares, and there are some that really get you, so that's nice, but it seems like a lot of them were just not well put together, and were very choreographed, and almost like the music cues were a little off, because it's like the scare happens, and then the music, or the music would hit first, and then it felt almost like a straight-to-video type of production in that way. And so a lot of the so-called scares didn't have a lot of impact. So I'm only giving it a below-average score, 2 out of 5. Acting, this is actually where the movie shines. The guy who plays the lawyer, his kind of character throughout the movie, he's a calm, collected, calculated guy. And you can see that facade slowly crumble away through the course of the movie as he just dives further and further into desperation and madness. And at the end, he is just giving a crazy performance that I really enjoyed, so I'm giving these high scores. 4 out of 5. Plot, 2 out of 5. This is where it falls apart. The beginning is kind of a mess. It's kind of slow evolving and kind of boring, and that's a bad thing. You have it going back and forth between, you know, the past and the present, and the way it does it is a little disjointed, and there's a lot of things that happen in this movie that you're like, well, this doesn't follow, or it needs something, it needs an extra scene or some kind of context to help the movie kind of flow better, because it doesn't flow very well. And it sort of brings you out, because then you have to like reestablish yourself and think, I'm like, okay, this is what's happening. But they really needed to create some sort of establishment shot or scene to help weave that portion of the tale to the other portion of the tale. And unfortunately, it just doesn't do a good job with that. Poorly executed, and therefore I have to give it a below average score of 2 out of 5. Nudity, I'm giving it a 0.5 out of 5. There are some tits in this movie, however, it's at the beginning, and it's kind of underwhelming, and it's really short. So there you go, 0.5 out of 5. Enjoyment factor, honestly, I can only give it a 2.5 out of 5. There are a lot of elements that I like in this movie. However, there are a lot of elements that put me off. First of all, it was boring in the first part of the movie. I am put off by a lot of the violence being off screen, and also that the plot just it was a little muddled, and it was disjointed. It didn't flow very well, and some of the stuff that was happening, you were like, wait, what, why, what, I don't, you know, and it just messed with the overall enjoyment of the film. And so, of course, my overall impression also is a 2.5 out of 5. In the end, after watching the credits roll, I felt like it was a very average movie. It has some good elements, however, it has a lot of bad elements, and it can't be great, but it's not bad. It's just average. It's there. You watch it, you get some entertainment, but it's not something that you're going to be, you know, pondering for years to come. And it's not something that you're just like, oh, yeah. I mean, there are moments in this movie where you're like, yes, this is pretty enjoyable, but there's also moments in this movie where you're just like, oh my goodness, why? Hit that eject button on the Blu-ray player or whatever, right? So, yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm not recommending the movie. I think it was a worthwhile watch, in my opinion, and I'm glad I watched it. However, yes, it was a bit disappointing because there was things that they could have done. If they would have done it better, if they would have executed better, it would have made this movie a much better movie. Like a lot of movies that need help. This one needed a little help. However, it's a fine movie. 2.5 out of 5 is not the end of the world. So that averages out to be a 2.4 out of 5. Hey, that's pretty close to what I had there. So the scores kind of worked out well that way. Anyways, so there you have it. Nightmare, the South Korean horror flick. Tell me what you think in the comments. Did you watch Nightmare? What did you think about it? Did you have trouble with the South Korean names? I mean, like, literally, you have the subtitles there, and yet when you hear them say it, it doesn't sound like what they're saying or what you read. So it's like there's an accent to it, and it just, I don't know, it's hard. It's hard. It's difficult. I'm sorry. You know what? You know what would help me? You know what would help me with Korean names? If a beautiful Korean woman would date me. Because then she can take me by the hand and tell me all about the names and how to pronounce them. And I will be a better movie reviewer for it. And plus, I would have a lovely Korean girlfriend. I'm not saying that's something that I want. I'm just saying that is a thing that could help me in this situation. I'm just saying. I'm just putting that out there. I'm not saying that, you know, that's not my goal. I'm just saying, you know, what am I saying? I don't know. I just said the whole thing. Anyways, man, I'm tired. So, That's episode 12 in the books, and now I gotta go back to the drawing board and think about what I'm gonna do for episode number 13. Perhaps I'll watch a Russian horror movie. I'm pretty sure I'm bad with Russian horror, or Russian names, so perhaps a lovely Russian woman would come and date me and tell me all the intricacies about Russian names. I'm an equal opportunity guy, people. I am. Anyways, enough embarrassing myself on camera. Wait a second. If I wanted to stop embarrassing myself on camera, I'd stop making I'd stop making videos, because God knows every video I pretty much embarrass myself, don't I? So, yeah, I'm going to end it there. So, Internet, don't embarrass yourselves.